thank you everyone for taking time out to learn more about CELUS this morning. My name is Ken DiFiore, and my role is library relations and outreach. I'll say unequivocally that the best way to show off CELUS is through a live demonstration. But whenever I conduct these webinars, I feel obligated to share just a few slides as a level set. I suspect everyone's aware of these concepts, but just to be sure, let me bear with me on a few things. And I think to start with is why do we measure e-resource usage statistics? I suspect there's a good many of you that are on the line today that are involved in some way with collection development, and along with that, I suspect you're using e-resource usage stats to help guide your decisions about what to pursue to buy, what to cancel, and there's of course some other things that are tangential to that. So things like looking at supporting teaching and research activities, respond to surveys. Those are the kinds of things where e-resources play a pivotal role. And there are a number of different sources for usage statistics. Librarians are often using link resolver logs, proxy server logs, Google Analytics. But the foundation, I think, is the counter metrics. Counter is an acronym, counting online usage of network electronic resources. And for those of you that want to find more information about Project Counter and the code of practice, I strongly encourage you to visit their website. Tasha Mellons-Cohen is the executive director of Project Counter. She's done tons and tons of webinars, and I think the website that she's put together with all the information about the code of practice and how she delivers those descriptions through webinars is just fantastic. So if you have an opportunity, I would strongly encourage you to track those down. So in essence, with counter metrics, we've had some legacy things with Counter 4, TRJ1 and the TRB1. Those are the nomenclature that was used with Counter 4. And Counter 5, things shifted to describe the user behavior on vendor websites in terms of 4 different master reports: the title report, the platform report, the database report, and the item report. Those are in essence, when we say the counter metrics, that's where the data is encapsulated in those 4 different reports. And there is a standardized method for technology librarians to access those counter reports, and that's through another standard. We call it SUSHI. It's an acronym for the Standardized Usage Statistics Harvesting Initiative. And it's now been called the Counter API. So you'll often hear me, I still use SUSHI. I can't get myself to call it the Counter API. So you'll hear me say SUSHI. But I would also, as part of understanding more about Project Counter and the standards, is in your investigations to visit the Counter registry. There's a screenshot there. So all of the publishers and platforms that are Counter compliant are listed on the registry. It's very, very well done. And I would encourage you to peruse that if you're looking for a particular vendor and want to see if they're publishing the usage stats in accordance with the Counter Code of Practices, to visit the registry. But there's problems, right? Even though we have these different ways of looking at at usage statistics, whether it's, I mentioned Google Analytics or Link Resolver logs, and with Counter especially. There's also the manual operations that are highly labor intensive. So in the Counter context, harvesting that Counter data, those 4 reports from the vendor admin portal, can take a lot of time done manually. And then, of course, once the data is accessed, you'd want to aggregate it and then create a filtering of that, so you can extract out of that the usage data, the usage data that you need to make the decision about that collection development project that you might be working on. Another thing would be, I'd say, is the surveys. So whether you're working for a member of an institution that's a member of the Association of Research Libraries, and you respond to that statistics survey, or the ACRL IPED survey, these can often be very time-consuming to pull together the usage stats data that's required in these reports. And then, of course, we've got some in the context of the Counter code of practice. We've just, well, not quite just, it was put forth last year, the shift from the Counter 5 specification to the Counter 5.1. So publishers are required to begin publishing their Counter metrics in accordance with the Counter 5.1 spec starting in March of 2025. Not all the publishers and platforms have followed that exactly, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today in the context of the CELUS platform and how it will handle the difference in the data. Just a little bit about the origins of CELUS. It's really derived from those problems that we just talked about on the previous slide. So at the National Library of Technology in Prague, along with their it's called the Czech eLib Consortium, who is responsible for securing subscriptions for the universities in the Czech Republic, they needed a new e-resource usage managed statistics platform. When you think about the last slide and some of those problems that I highlighted, you can multiply that by exponentially when you're looking at a large consortium of university libraries. So what they did is they contracted with a technology company called Big Dig Data, and through this public-private partnership came CELUS, and CELUS is an acronym, the Czech eLib usage statistics. And in essence, it is a cloud-based application that makes assessing the usage of e-resources much faster, easier, and with total control of the data. That's a brief, within 10 minutes or so, talking about the framework around Counter usage stats and the origin of CELUS. And what I'd like to do now is just jump right in and actually show you the platform. I also want to set your expectation here by noting that the CELUS platform has many features and functionality, but there's just not enough time to go through everything. So I'm going to highlight what I think are the core components and how those address some of the pain points that I mentioned a moment ago in my slide. For those of you that want more information, you can just drop a note to ask@celus.net, and you will hear me say this at least 3 times, if not more, is really and truly the best way to get a deeper understanding of the CELUS platform is to engage in a trial. And there's no cost associated with the trial. There is no future commitment required, but it's really a way to use the platform with your own usage data. And in our experience here at CELUS, the best way to see its value is to load your own data in and do the harvesting of your counter data, and then do the analysis. And I'm going to show you as much of that as I can today. So what you're seeing displayed here is a basic dashboard of the platform. This is a hypothetical library that in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see it's called the Clementinum Library. It's actually my background image. It is probably the most beautiful library I've ever been in. In fact, that opening picture that you saw on my slide, I was able to visit the library last year when I was in Prague. And so it's aptly, I think, part of what my demo system is all about. So like all dashboards, it represents a snapshot of usage and a snapshot of the progress of sushi harvest. And you can see we've got some different little applets, if you will, showing the full text search usage, the search usage, multimedia for the system here, my demo library. Dashboards are a great way to maybe present to management, to give them this snapshot. But I think for most electronic resource librarians or others that are involved with collection development, they want to get a deeper look at the data. And so I'm going to show you some of that today. I'm just going to progress down the left-hand menu, picking out certain pieces of functionality here that I think are important. And let me start by going through platforms. So here you'll find a list of platforms and publishers whose usage data I've aggregated and stored in this system. I suspect you'll all recognize these names here, typical publishers that most academic libraries are familiar with. I'm going to highlight one, and we're going to delve a little deeper in. And my favorite, having worked there for almost 20 years, I'll select JSTOR here, and we can see that with the JSTOR platform, we have in this particular demo system, we've harvested usage data in accordance with the Counter 5 spec. And you can see we've got some data from January of 2024 through January of 2025 that was published by JSTOR in accordance with the Counter 5 spec. We also have usage data for that was published by JSTOR in accordance with the Counter 5.1 spec. So what this tells us right off the bat is that JSTOR has gone ahead and republished their legacy usage data in 2024 in accordance with that Counter 5.1 spec. So kudos to them. They have gone beyond what the requirement was. So there is a way to go back and forth and take a look at the different, because there are some subtle differences in the way between the two specifications on how they count user behavior. Now, one of the things I want to highlight here is a CELUS metric, one of the ones that it was developed by the CELUS team, and that is the interest metric. So interest is a way to normalize the data, provide librarians with a way to look across various data feeds. That is the counter 5 and the counter 5.1 specification. So if I just uncheck these check boxes here and just focus on the CELUS interest metric for full text, we can see through the normalization, we've got usage data for the entire time from January of 2024 all the way until April of 2026. So we're looking at that complete data feed. And I'm just going to look in at the January of 2025 bar, and I'll see that the full text, air quotes here, that's the CELUS metric full text, is 19,134. Now, if I were to go and take a look at the counter 5 usage data, we've got, these are the typical counter metrics. What I'm going to do is just show the total item request, and you can see that I've got that in the counter 5 data. And if I look at January of 2025, once again, I have 19,134. So what's going on behind the scenes is the CELUS system is actually mapped its full text metric to the total item request. So now I knew that beforehand, but there's a place you can go into the platform and look at all the mappings that have been implemented system-wide. And again, it's a great way to look at data across various specifications. That's just one example I tried to show here. So keep that interest metric in mind as you think about, and if you were to trial, and looking at data over a longer period of time. The other thing I want to do is go back to the platforms link, and you'll notice here on the list, we can see these are the interest metrics here. There's full text, and we've got one for search and multimedia. And again, those values there are emanate from that mapping that the CELUS system did to the various counter metrics. While we're here, I do want to show you something that is often a question and interest of electronic resource librarians, and that is cost per use. So the question is often, well, how can I get a cost per use from these platforms? You know, we've got the usage measurements here, and what I can do is there's a little tiny button on the right-hand side with a $sign. By clicking the $sign, you can see that we've got a editable column here now, and it's price. So if you know what the cost is, your cost for, say, JSTOR for 2025, you could simply type that in here. Say it's $25,000 for 2025, and you hit save. That number's entered into the column, and then the straightforward cost per use calculation is performed based on the full text number here. And then you can see the values that are populated in the full text, and then if we had searches, et cetera. So it's a really, I know there is some, I'm sure, a lot of questions that result from this. We're going to dig a little deeper into cost per use in a few minutes, but this is a great starting point in terms of trying to get some CPU analyses at the platform level. CELUS provides that mechanism directly using that button. So moving on, let me keep going down the list here on the left-hand menu. That's where all the functionality is accessible. I'm going to go through next. I'm going to go down to SUSHI Management. So we're looking at data measurements, right, that you've seen here that I've shown you so far. And the question is, well, how did we get that usage data? That in my slide there, I talked about the title report, the platform report, the database report, and the item report. So how did we get those reports? How did we harvest those? And that's where you're going to get all that functionality in the SUSHI management area. So I'm going to click. Oh, sorry about that, folks. I'm going to click the SUSHI management link there, and out pops my list of these are those publishers and platforms that you saw listed in my platform display. But here it's a little deeper, and you're going to see multiple entries for some of these publishers, and the reason is the availability of the usage stats in accordance with the two different counter specs, 5 and then 5.1. So if we stay with JSTOR here, we can see the SUSHI credential. I'm going to just click on that for JSTOR, and you can see this is a typical SUSHI credential dialog box. Now I probably should have started. My apologies. Probably should have started with a new one. This is with it, when the librarian wants to add a new SUSHI credential, they can click Add New SUSHI. Complete here the values of the credential, which that's what I wanted to jump to and show you the one for JSTOR here. So here's some typical SUSHI credentials for JSTOR, and there's very close integration between the CELUS dialog box here and that counter registry. If you recall, I showed you that screenshot in one of my slides. So these are the things that we try to help libraries with when they're adding a credential. So you can I'll go back and show you how easy it is to add a credential here. So if we select, say, Access Engineering, you can see that when I click the caret here, you'll notice we've got a little registry label here, meaning that particular platform is counter compliant. And then you can see the values here that would constitute the credential. So you would put those in and then hit close. And when you do that, you'll notice the little button there for automatic harvesting. When you hit save, then that data is then passed to the CELUS harvester, which will invoke the harvest. I overlooked this one. I'm sorry. Let me come back to this. I mentioned the master reports, the title report, the platform report, database report, and the item report. You can see they're all listed here if they're available for and the counter 5.1 spec. Then we would select those from the list and then again hit save, and then it would invoke the harvester to go ahead and begin harvesting the counter 5.1 usage data from JSTOR. Now, how do we know that there's been harvesting that's occurred, and how can we manage and monitor? How can we take a close look to see how that's working? Well, there's an inventory control mechanism. I like to refer to that, and it's accessed through the overview link there, and you can see the green check marks. That means that there's been a successful harvest, and you can see here we've got successful harvest in each month throughout 2025 and through the first 4 months of 2026. Now, I have purposely, and this, keep in mind, this is my demonstration system, so I purposely leave some gaps and things here to talk to that. And you'll notice here that I only have the first 5 months of 2024 from JSTOR. Well, the reason is I purposely didn't ask the CELUS harvester to harvest that, because I wanted to show you how easy it is to invoke a manual harvest. You can simply select the month and do harvest. and the harvester will kick off. So this is a manual harvest. Now, the CELUS harvester would do that if I told it to. It would go ahead and do all of the automatic harvesting. You could set it up to do that. Again, I've left it alone here so I can show a live harvest, and this is going to be working in the background, and we'll come back to that, and I can show you that in a few minutes how that's been successful. While that's working, let me say that, if the case of a failed harvest, now this one's working, so that's not a true error code, but if there was a harvest that failed, there's a series of icons. In a similar sense, we have the green check, so there would be a red bug, and that would indicate that there's been a failure. And then there's through the platform here, you can get a series of error codes that will let you know that why the harvest has failed. And that's where you would use that error code in working with the CELUS team, or most probably the publisher, because maybe they changed their credential or system on their side that resulted in a harvesting error. So its error codes are an important part of the platform to be able to trace a problem. So let me hit close here, and I am going to go back, and I want to be sure I highlight this point. So you see this dialog box for adding sushi credentials. So again, if you do decide to trial a CELUS system, you would be as part of that, you would load your sushi credentials. And you could start, I typically advise to do 2 or 3 manually like this, but there's also a bulk load mechanism. If I go up to import, you can see that there's a mechanism to access a template file that you would download the template, put your credentials in there, and then send those to me, and then we would get those uploaded. It really facilitates loading the credentials in and getting your system configured and gathering all of your data. I'm not going to go through all of that today. I am going to go back, though. I want to look at that harvest to see if that occurred successfully, and it did. So you'll notice 2024 in June, we have a green check mark there. So we have successfully harvested the June title report. Again, I could have done the platform report and these other things for JSTOR, but I just, again, for time limitations, I'm not going to do that. But I think you get the idea of the power of the CELUS harvester and the time savings that it can provide to you. Now, if there is a bad download somewhere, sometimes a publisher may say, like our August title report from 2025, we found it was corrupted. So what you can do is you can go into delete mode and just delete that month and then reharvest it. It's that easy. So again, the CELUS harvester is a really efficient mechanism to collect all of your counter data and have that all be automated. Now, of course, not all of the publishers are counter compliant. We have what we call vendors that don't have a sushi server. So that's where we are going to look at the non-sushi platforms. So you can see the list here. There is about 150 on this list, and these are publishings or platforms that produce data that, again, there's no sushi server there. So they have to be manually loaded into CELUS. And that's one of the advantages of CELUS is as I introduced it, a cloud-based platform for aggregating all of your usage data that you can come here and load some of the non-sushi data from these vendors that you subscribe to. So I think this is one of the really powerful components of CELUS, and I think it also reflects the commitment that the organization has towards providing this full, comprehensive list of features and functions for e-resource usage management. And one of my colleagues who is on the phone today, Simona Popolikova, this is something that she is built. She works with these publishers and to try to understand their data. And as part of her work, I'm going to go down to one that I know most academic libraries subscribe to, and that is Canopy. So what Simona has done is built a knowledge-based page describing each one of those non-sushi vendors. And in that description, you'll often find a template. So she's analyzed the data from that particular non-sushi vendor, and she has put it in a particular format and built a loader so that when you're at the loading site here, you can then simply take that data and load it into CELUS. So I'm going to try that here live. I should have some Canopy data that I've worked with, and I have very diligently made sure that data is in accordance with what the template that Simona's published in that knowledge base. So I'm going to select it, and I'm going to do upload, and it's going to chug away. I'm going to continue, and the loader is parsing out the data, and it's going to display it here, saying that in essence, yes, I've got some data elements here, and list the ones that I have. And Canopy is, as I'm sure you all know, is a video platform. So the metrics that it identified are pages and plays. So it's going to go ahead and keep chugging away. And it has loaded that non-sushi data into the platform. So again, I'm going to refresh the platform link, and now we've got Canopy listed there into our list of platforms. So when I click on that, I can go and I can look at the non-counter data and that I just showed here. And here's pages and plays. Typically, a high quality use is considered a play. So it's a video play, and you can see starting in 2025, through the January through December, we've got the number of plays from this usage from this data that I loaded in. Now, in terms of the interest metric, what CELUS behind the scenes maps the plays to a value called multimedia. So there may be other video platforms out there that use something similar, and the CELUS mapping would be to multimedia, so you can look and compare multimedia resources using the CELUS metric. The next thing I want to shift to is a really powerful feature called tagging. And what tagging allows you, what it does is it provides the ability for users to apply specific tags and labels to various content elements in the platform. Which then that tag can become a search filter later on. So you can, filter by a particular tag. I've seen a lot of ways that librarians have used tags. Like, for example, a recent one is the anthropology department at one university was sponsoring an ebook collection. So the librarian knew the titles and loaded a list of ISBNs for those books into the CELUS tagging mechanism and tagged all those books, and then could go ahead and generate a usage analysis based on that tag. And I'm going to try to mimic that if I can today here. So here is my list of journals. Let's call this the education collection. This is a list of journal titles from Taylor and Francis. Just a hypothetical thing that I put together. And you can see the tag that I've called it is education basics. So when I come back to the platform, what I'm going to do is go ahead and add the new tag. I'm sorry. I want to do adding the new tag class that we can call. I'm going to call it TNF education. Okay, and I'm going to create that tag class. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload some data here. I'm going to go to title list for that and upload some new data. I'm going to get the tag name from, I'm going to use the TNF education, and I am going to find that I'm going to locate, oh gosh, where did I put that file? Oh, rats. It's the curse of the live demo. I think it is. Here it is. I'm going to import that, upload the data. And now I've got those titles. There were about 19 of them. I've loaded that title list into CELUS. I'm going to assign that education tag to those titles with that ISSN. So now I've got this title list assigned. Each one has that tag, the TNF education basics there. So now, as I said, what value is that? Well, it's a great lead into the reporting module. So let me come to the reporting module here. And before I jump in and do some work with that tag filter that I just described, let me give a quick few minutes on the reporting module. I think it's pretty intuitive here. So right at the top, you get the option of selecting what you want to slice and dice. What are the counter data that you want to begin to filter on. So we know we've got really great data for 2025. You saw that particularly with the JSTOR example. But those other publishers we've harvested the Counter 5.1 title report. So we're going to work with that one. You look at the paradigm here. I mentioned intuitiveness. You've got rows, columns, and filters. It's that spreadsheet paradigm. So what you can do is to simply adjust the rows, columns, and filter elements to go and begin and slice and dice that content. So one of the things I want to do, 2025 data. So the only thing I'm going to adjust here first go around is the year. So we're going to look, I'm going to run this report and notice here the data coverage, as I alluded to, we've got 100% data coverage from our publishers here. So now we're going to just do a usage report. So out pops all of the counter metrics here, no limit exceeded, no license, all the way to the unique title request. Now you can, and folks, look, I my sessions with libraries, I will typically spend a solid hour going over all of the different elements of the reporting module. So it's way beyond the scope of what I'm talking about today. I'm just going to show you a few things, but that's is where, again, I guess to talk about doing a trial where your own data is here, and then you can filter on your own data and get out and extract meaningful usage stats that can answer those collection development decisions. So here's just a list of platforms just based on the search. But I'm going to show you just one example to fold in that tagging exercise that we did. So I'm going to get rid of platforms, go to titles. I am going to here on the filters, I'm going to say we're going to limit the metric to unique item request. That's typically your PDF download. We're going to stay with the year 2025. And what I'm going to add to it is, see this filter called title tags. So remember, we put in that list of ISSNs and titles and assigned it the Taylor and Francis education tag. So now what I'm doing is I'm saying to the CELUS system, go in and pull out the usage for those titles that we manually loaded that along with that tag. So the tag is essentially my search element. So when I run that report, now I'll pop that list. If you remember, there was 19 of them. And here's my unique item request here in the last column. That was another one of my filters. So it's a great way to tagging is a really great way to create collections, if you will, virtual collections. And of course, these could map to the actual collections that you buy. So you're mirroring that collection that you bought virtually in CELUS, and then getting a usage report based on the titles that are in that collection, as it compares to what I showed you a few minutes ago with just looking at platforms. So here's your title usage on display. Now, one of the things that I do want to show, because you can save all these searches. So if the librarian wanted to reuse this and said, okay, we want to go in and look at this usage on a regular basis, you can just save the report here. You know, I'm not going to go through all of the mouse clicks, but there's a way to save this report. So it will appear under the report link on the left-hand menu that you saved. Now, you can also go into specialized reports. So when you click on the specialized report link, what the CELUS team has done, again, and I think this results from the close work that the CELUS team has done with librarians over the years. They've identified, these several reports globally, actually, reports and surveys that librarians have had to respond to, and dissected those reports. So, for example, the ACRL IPEDS report, we've got question 61B. So the team has analyzed the survey and identified those questions that are asking a question about usage. So here is the actual filter here listed. So by running the report, out pops the usage that can then be used to satisfy the questions in the ACRL IPEDS report. Similarly, we've got the ARL statistics survey, and we do things internationally as well. There are things in Germany, things in Australia, surveys in Spain in a similar fashion to ICRL, IPEDS, and ARL. And so we've built those in, analyzed those reports, and built search queries in and saved those. So it's a real time saver having the be able to create these reports right from within the save search within CELUS. So let's go back. I'm going to try something, and I question whether I have time enough to give it its due. But let me go in and mirror this report again. And so I was looking at the title report. 5.1 for 2025. I want to pull up back up that education list. I want to try something I worked on over the weekend and see if I can pull this off for you live. So I want to do this. I want to filter by education titles. So here's my list of educational titles. And what I want to do is I want to actually, because one of the questions that may have come up here is that I want to get a cost per use from this list, right? We saw how to do cost per use at the platform level, but here at the title level, we don't have a plug and play mechanism to do cost per use at the title level at this point. And it's just the wide variation in the way libraries manage their costs make it a challenge for us to implement this easy mechanism within the platform. Now we're doing things with Power BI and our data hub, which is beyond the scope of today's basic session. And coming up, there's a couple of webinars that my colleagues will give that are more advanced in how to get to do a cost per use at the title level using a business intelligence tool like Power BI. So I've got a list of dates for that I'll come back to. But there is a way using Excel with CELUS. So we've got our list of titles here, and educational psychologist is at the top, and we've got the Journal of Educational Research. The unique item requests here that we saw where it looks like 291 and 240. Just keep that in mind as we go, because what I'm going to do is export this. So by exporting this report, all of this data is going to be populated either in a CSV or an Excel file. So where I've actually done the export is right here in this tab. So I have done the export of that usage data. You can see I've got the total item request there, 447 that we saw in the previous slide. So, but now what I have, I'm going to click on this tab. This is my database of cost, right? So if I have a database of cost of all of the Taylor and France, and this is a hypothetical list that I pulled together from working with some libraries who subscribe to a bunch of Taylor and Francis titles. So I have this list as my think of it as my master cost database for Taylor and Francis. So what I'm going to do now is with my output from my CELUS system with that tag, right? So those titles, remember, educational psychologist and the Journal of Educational Research were at the top. And here is the total item request. All I need to do is a VLOOKUP. And I will say with all certainty, I am not an Excel guru, but looking at a few YouTube videos, you simply learn how to do a VLOOKUP between this cell, which is the title and ISSN. So what I'm going to do is do a VLOOKUP in the cost database and go ahead and pull the cost and then pull that cost into this spreadsheet. And then by simply dragging it, I get the cost for each one of the titles. So the VLOOKUP went ahead and looked at the subscription database here in this tab, and it pulled the data in. So now I've got all my costs. And just for CPU, it's easy to do. It's a simple, right? It's a simple division. So I'm going to take my cost, which is in F2 divided by the usage would be E2, right? So I'm going to get my cost per use there. So I think if I just drag that down, it gets the cost per use. And I think you can make that into, like a format to a number or a dollar sign, I should say. That's most Okay, so that's kind of doing an elemental CPU using Excel, pulling some data directly from CELUS. And I think that is pretty much what I wanted to show today. And again, there's lots of other features and functionality in the platform. Hopefully, you can get a feel for that. I know I ignored quite a bit of it today, but hopefully that'll give you some sense of the power of the platform and how it can help, particularly e-resource librarians do their usage analysis much more efficiently in a timely fashion. So we've got about 5, 6, 7 minutes for Q&A, and I did my best to push through to leave some time, and hopefully everything was clear. But again, the trial is really the best way to evaluate the platform. Let me tell you about these two webinars on cost per use that are coming up. One is on June 9th, and that is going to be a whole hour on this use of spreadsheets, kind of that I just touched on here, this example. My colleague Camilla will expand upon that and spend a whole hour doing that. And then on the 16th, I mentioned a more sophisticated way with a lot more extensibility to it to do CPU using the new Data Hub capability with Microsoft's Power BI. So Camilla will be doing a whole hour on that on June 16th. And my colleague Simona, who's on the line today, she'll be sending out invitations to all of our contacts. And if you want to be sure to get an invitation, just send an email to ask@celus.net. And again, I think I'll say for the last time, if you do want to do a trial, send a note there as well, and we'll get you all hooked up. So let me zip it here for and go to questions. So I'll ask Simona to chime in with me. How are we doing, Simona, on questions? Did we cover did you cover everything, or how are we doing?
We covered everything so far, but now there are some new ones appearing. So just the first very short one. The next two sessions, yes, if you guys register, you will get the link to the recording, so you don't need to attend online. Is there a way to remove the Scopus tags in the report feature? Yes, there is a way. There is a knowledge base article about it. If you can't find it, just let us know at the email that Ken mentioned. It's ask@celus.net. Another question. What if you have purchased from a platform? How can you indicate that with price per unit? Is that possible now or in the future?
The platform level, this one right here that we talked about, is that the one do you think they're referring to? So again, these are just a list of platforms with which I have data. That's why there's a small number here. But when you get your CELUS system all configured with the SUSHI credentials, all of your platforms will appear here, at which time you can then add your fees in here. So again, this is just a handful plus of platforms that are part of my demo system. If I put too many in there, then it gets a little awkward to kind of work through things. Was that the question you think, Simona, or did I misread that?
I think so. I think so, yeah.
Okay.
We have some people raising their hands, so I'll try to allow Rebecca Merrill to talk if she wants to ask the question.
Okay.
Rebecca, you should be able to, you just need to unmute yourself and you should be able to tell
I'm
us.
sorry, I didn't know I had raised my hand.
Okay.
I didn't mean to.
No
Well,
problem.
Rebecca,
Thank
now that
you.
you're live, you've got to say something. You've got to make up a question.
I like the product. I need to do more work in it, but I do like the product.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
And
I
if
hope this has
there,
been helpful. I hope this has been helpful, everyone. But as Simona was saying, please just drop us a note at ask@celus.net and we'll get back to you. Okay.
okay.
Well, thanks, everyone. Have a great week. And we look forward to hearing from you. And if you're in Prague, if you have any interest in a Baroque library, please go see the Clementinum Library. It will raise the hair on your neck. I guarantee it. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, Ken.